Okay, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hi. Just to thank you for coming in and joining in for the Marketing Mindsets in Tough Times. This is a sharing to BNI members. Again, it's not about my trade, it's just things that I've walked through my journey, and I just thought I'll share this. And thank you for coming in to learn together, right? Before we begin, actually, we want to have one quick exercise and get all of you to just participate in. I'll call it the 1 minute sparking exercise, where we're going to write 7 to 10 points about the object. Okay, and then you share this 7 to 10 points in our group chat. Okay, I'll give a quick example. What you see here, it's an elephant, of course, and then I just want you to write about 7 to 10 points about it. To me, the first thing I see first thing I think about when I write, when I see the elephant is first question that comes to mind is, is it African or Asian? I'm looking at the ears, I'm looking at the tusks. Then when I see tusks, I get thinking about all the poaching. And then along the way, I remember there's a trunk joke about it. It's a blind man story. I think you all know the blind man story, right? Different people feel the different parts of the elephant. And then there's different things, about the training, the family structure. Then the last thing I remember is that the gestation period, when it's pregnant, carries the baby inside there for 4 to 5 years. So this is like write all this in one line and then post it into the group chat. I want to hear all the different responses. Okay, so we'll do this quick exercise. Just give yourself 1 minute for that, for the next picture that I'm going to show. Are you all ready? Say yes if you are.
Yes.
You can keep it interactive.
Okay.
Don't be shy. I can take questions like a person. And we'll start the 1 minute. Once you have it, you just write it into the group chat. Yeah, just write.
Is it supposed to be the piano?
No, sorry. I'm supposed to switch it back.
What is the word again?
This is exercise.
Yeah. What's the word for this exercise?
This is the object. Write about this object.
What's the object?
What do you see in front of you?
Are we sure we're supposed to type it in or write down first, then type it in?
If you're the person to write, you're the more tactile one, you can write it in, take a photograph, and post it into the chat. That's okay.
Oh.
So it's any object that's in front of us.
What do you see in front of you? Besides the grid of us, you should be seeing the shared screen.
Because I can't see anything, that's why I'm just...
You don't see anything there?
No.
Laura, write it in this format.
Oh, okay. I saw it.
1 dash, So I will get all your responses in one line.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All your responses in one line so that we don't spam the chat.
Understand.
And on the WhatsApp chat, not the...
Oh, on the WhatsApp chat.
On the WhatsApp chat.
Okay.
Sorry. I want the WhatsApp chat, so because once this goes off, you will see the chat. Do you guys see the aeroplane?
Yes. Brentford is the airplane, not the elephant.
What did I write there? I wrote the Zoom sharing. WhatsApp chat. Okay, thanks Sharon.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying too.
Yeah, thanks Jeremiah. Thanks Edmund.
Quite very long.
Okay. Can. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Any of us here? Okay. That's I miss flying. I know, right? Minty, yeah, put it onto the WhatsApp chat.
Minty, handsome pilot.
That's cute.
That's what I wish for every flight.
Especially long
Okay.
flight, right? At least some eye candy.
They
Yeah.
don't come out what?
Some do.
Okay, any more responses? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Wait.
5, 6, 7, 8. Thanks, Dr. N. Okay, good. Thank you for responses. One more, is it? Juliet, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Again, if you're the type to be more comfortable with writing out on a piece of paper, then you can just take a photograph of what you've written and just post it to the WhatsApp chat. That's also okay. There is a reason for all this. Okay, we'll quickly just move on. Thank you for your responses. We'll do another exercise. This is exercise number 2. Okay, now we're gonna do a little bit more imagination. So imagine you are rich, money is no object, you're healthy and strong, you're a type that can swim, triathlon, do a triathlon and then come back and still got energy to do some parkour jumping around. And you're super popular, everybody just loves you. Okay, so that's basically you have no problems. You're rich, healthy, and everybody loves you. And I want you to take on this mindset that you're ready to buy. Okay, and I want you to challenge yourself now to write 10 points about the next object I'm going to show. Okay, not so now it's like I don't want the 7 to 10, I want exactly 10. Okay, and when you're ready, send it again to the WhatsApp chat. I will also give my answer to this, but I'll wait for about 5 of you to jump in first before I do it. Is it okay?
About the object as in the coming object that you're going to
Coming object, the next object I'm going to show. So remember, you're rich, healthy, everybody loves you, and you're ready to buy. And just write 10 things. All right?
What? Oh, it's 10 words to describe the object, right?
Just 10 things about the object. When you see this, what does it trigger in your brain?
Must be exactly 10.
Yeah, let's force yourself to get 10. I think you got more, right? You're the type to get more than that. And just go happy, right?
Oh my
Just
god,
go
can we play
happy,
the
right?
same thing?
Where's your answer? I want to do it.
Me too. Thanks for typing it out. Oh, sweet.
Hey, focus on your own, focus on your own. That's one, Patrick.
Point 7. I like the point 7.
No need. Yeah, but they're selling, yeah,
They're selling very well.
through Grab, I think, or through all the.
Yeah.
No, because people need the craving, they need to like unwind and go calm.
They use it to give meaning to life.
Yes.
Ah,
还没有。
thanks, Jean. Thanks, Renford. Twice a week. What's the second one for Renford?
It's Koi.
Oh, okay. Brand names. Okay, cool. Anja friends. Lovely. Okay. We wait for one or two more, and then we'll click in.
Also business-minded sport some more.
Alright. Working adults trend. Okay, cool.
Sekarang. Okay.
What's that? Okay. Enough said.
Chendol in a cup.
Then Dr. N will, oh, chendol in a cup.
Nice.
Yes or no?
Chendol in the cup. Okay, you can slowly take your time to put in the responses. I will just carry on. Thank you guys who have responded already. Let me just stop the music so we all don't fall asleep. And we're back. Okay, so this, I'll just get started right now. This is the, thank you for joining me for the 2 exercises. That's a little bit, I'll come into why we did that a little bit later. So today I'm just going to talk about the marketing mindset. And I guess you guys will know part of the taking up of the mindset for marketing is being creative. And if you are by yourself not creative, then I'll recommend that you grab a pool of friends, like your immediate group in your BNI chapter, and pull together your ideas and maybe group together and kind of your own small little mastermind and generate ideas for your business. So that's the creative part of marketing, and it's always going to be like that. Don't mind if I just mute everybody. You can. How do I mute everybody? Mute all.
I've done it.
Just getting done it. Anytime you can always unmute yourself to ask a question. Maybe some.
Oops, wait.
You mute me as well. Okay. I'm just muting everybody. At any time, you can always unmute yourself if you have a question. Okay. So that was the creative part of marketing. You see a little bit of exercises there. You can form your own group to generate ideas for your business. Usually when you talk about marketing, people always talk about the word strategy. I don't like to use the word strategy because it means different things to different people. So I'll just say strategy is about breaking it down is about structure and process. You need a structure to run the marketing, and your process lives on a structure. And these two are interrelated because if you don't have a structure, your process will go all over the place. And you need to have a process. A structure by itself is just a building, but you also need a process to run it. And of course, the next thing you need to have is the discipline to run your process on your structure. And because this is about tough times, I'm going to add in this word called courage, because it's just taking a bold step to exercise what you have learned today or through different things in BNI, university and stuff like that, and to take the courage to just apply them. You're probably going to make a few mistakes along the way, but it's all a process of learning. And as part of this whole structure, I'd like to begin with the terms I'll be using and through this and the way I adopt it for myself as well, so that these terms that I use are part of my structure. They can be part of yours. I recommend that they are, so at least there's we can more or less run in sync. But again, find terms that you can use that relate to you. The leads versus referrals, I'll use a BNI definition. Leads, referrals are basically qualified leads. How do you qualify the leads? You have your one-to-one to understand what your fellow members are looking out for. So when you give a lead to the person, it's no longer just a cold lead, it's a warm lead. There's at least have gone through some qualifying questions when they bring them to you as a referral. Now, outbound versus inbound leads. This is more a marketing term. When you talk about outbound leads, is when you go out there and do door knocking, you do a road show, you put flyers in people's hands. You're aggressively going out there to meet the market. Inbound is when they come to you and saying, hey, I want to buy something, I want to find out more. This is, again, a bit more old school marketing, but it's good to know where the boundaries are. Things like digital marketing actually have kind of merged these two together. When you do content marketing, I think Jeremiah will be talking more about content marketing next week. When you do content marketing, you drive ads. That could be ads, will be outbound ads to drive traffic to your content. And if your content is sexy enough, pulls enough triggers, the people will come to volunteer to you and be like, hey, I want to learn more about what you have written about in that content. Then that's how digital marketing tends to blend the outbound versus inbound leads. Now, suspects versus prospects is also a marketing term. Suspects are basically, very simply, people you haven't met yet. You haven't sat down to have a discussion yet. So all the leads, your referrals, your outbound versus inbound, all these, as long as you haven't sat with them yet, I would call them suspects. Prospects are people that you have at least sat down with and have some consult or some presentation to them. Then they are already considered prospects. This is again, in this day and age, we have kind of merged these two and we count everybody a prospect. But it's good to have this segregation, so at least you know that the difference. Why do you want to know the difference? Especially when, the next point, prospects versus customers. Very simply put, if they bought your service, they paid money, they are no longer a prospect. They are now a customer. So it's good to have this definition again, because what you might say to a customer will be something different to what you say to a prospect, and maybe also be something different to what you say to a suspect. Because if the person is not yet on your side and you start telling too much, sometimes you heard this term called oversell, right? They are not ready to listen to you yet. So you need to know how much to prepare to talk to a suspect, how much to prepare to talk to a prospect, and how much to talk to a customer, because then there'll be all different things of your business that you're going to be sharing with them. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, good. So again, when I talk about prospects versus customers, know that they can be a customer of one of your products, but still a prospect for your next product. Okay, sometimes you have a range of products, you have different products, you have upsells, you have cross sells. So they could be a customer on one aspect, but still a prospect on another. So how do you then bring them over? So that's part of the thinking that we want to explore a little bit on in our next slide. Clients versus customers is a term that I use personally. The way I define a difference between client and customer is that with a client, I will have more of a relationship, more of an engagement versus a customer. Like to drive home the point, just now when you saw the bubble tea, how many of you would call yourself a regular customer? Some of you, right? But would you call yourself a client of that bubble tea joint? Quite unlikely, because most of this tend to be more transactional rather than being as a client. So when okay, in BNI, I try to push the packet. That means when you are when you have a say a B2C or even a B2B, sometimes some of your people here could be customers, fellow members can be customers, but BNI gives you a very interesting opportunity to see if there is a way to turn this customer into a client. And then because in our chapter context, there is already a sense of trust, already a sense of relationship, and the whole idea of this is that is this something that you can duplicate and make it identify what it is to build this relationship, if you want to, and to bring a customer into a client. One example I was thinking of, I think Elenia is not in this chat today, right? But I see that Eugene is. Like Elenia does shoes, and Eugene has been like buying repeat. How many pairs of shoes have you bought from Elenia already, Eugene? Is she gonna answer? I think she ran away. The last count I heard, it was like about 15 pairs of shoes, and now they are like BFS, right? So the whole idea here is that for someone like Elena is to trying to identify at what stage did Eugene move from being a customer to BFF, and somewhere stop in the middle somewhere, that's a client relationship. And if you can identify what was it that made that change, and pull it into something you can repeat for your business, I think that's a very healthy exercise for everyone to take to take on. Any questions on these terms used? No? Okay, then I'll move on. Okay, I need some water. Okay, so this diagram here is a lifetime value about life stages. This is what we use at Loop, the 5 stages. Some of you may use a buyer's journey, which is 3 steps. Some of you have a 7-step. That's fine. The whole point is that you should identify for yourself what are the different life cycle stages for your business. At Loop, we use 5. It's the 5 columns are namely to acquire prospect, convert them to customer, grow them so that they become active, encourage them to be advocates so they start giving referrals, and at some point, whether it's a product or service or just a business relationship with you, they tend to leave you, and then you figure out how do you win them back. Now, if you have been in a MNC or corporate environment, you might realize that these 5 different stages in a bigger MNC environment, they could be handled by different departments. But many times as a solopreneur, as a small business owner, all these 5 could happen in one conversation. In a 20-minute conversation, all these things are going on, and the danger is that you tend to mix up all these different things, and you don't know exactly where things are going on with this. Now, when you again, it's good to identify where people are, or where the business is, your product and service is in these 5 stages. So at least you know what different activities to prepare for each of the different stage. Does it make sense? Okay, you can talk to me. Not a problem. If you have any questions also, you can just unmute and just ask. And at this point of time, I want to go back to the answers that you have on WhatsApp for the second exercise. Okay. Remember the exercise I told you all to imagine that you are ready to buy. Right now, I want to put you in the mindset that you are now the business owner of the bubble tea, or you're a major shareholder of a bubble tea chain. So what are your different things that you identify from the public? So like, I'm just going to walk through that list there. You can see that people like Shamala will never be in this life cycle. She's not going to be a customer. That's fine. Not every business has customers. You just find out who your tribe is and you address them. Jeremiah is looking at brands, and he's talking about Sugar High. He's looking at Taiwan. He's looking at different markets. He's looking at location. So when you are looking at this as a business owner, if you're trying to acquire prospects, you're probably gonna be conscious about how you brand your bubble tea, how you place or position your bubble tea, what location should you be at. Again, there'll be people like Patrick that says, that's unhealthy, not essential. But again, what you notice is that their kids, the kids are going there, the youngsters are going there. And as a business owner, that's the acquiring the prospect, and how to convert them into customers. And it's to give them things like, they like sweet things. They like the dessert. They love, all the chewy things. Some will think that, hey, it's a good reason to share with friends. And that's where you think about the stage of how do you make this a party kind of thing. How do you get people to, like what Flora said, belanja friends? How you get your brand to the stage where people buy things, buy your items to give others. Okay, so you can see even from this pretty short exercise of you coming up with the 10 things there, these will be, when you put this and you superimpose this into the life cycle stages, you realize that there's different things that you would do in different stage, because this is what different people will be looking out for. Even my own answers, I would say, the first thing I look off is the sugar level. I'm talking about flavors. Words like queue. The queue will be more like, how do I create that queue so that there is that encourage the advocates. People see a queue, people think, that's a trend. It's like what Juliet says, you know, this is a trend. There's something that targets a family. For me, I'm also a little bit more business minded. I'll be saying, what's the business franchise model? What's the cost? What's the margin? What's the SWOT analysis of if I want to take up a bubble tea franchise, right? So these are different things that when you talk about the life cycle stages for your own business, you should be thinking along these lines. And if you can't quite generate all these ideas, do a quick exercise like that. Grab a few people that you feel that they can be objective and to your product or service, and pull a few people in, do it together, do this sparking exercise, and just generate ideas. So at least then you know what are the different things that people look out for in different stages of the life cycle. Does that make sense? If it does, I'll just quickly move on. Okay, so in everything that we do in all this business, I also want to impress upon you that there is always going to be this law of averages, this 10-3-1 rule, and it applies to all the phases of your business. Even between the cold calls or appointment to show up, when you make an appointment and whether they show up or not, there's always going to be a 10-3-1 rule. When you're sitting in front of a person, they are suspect. When you talk to them, they are suspect. You turn them to a prospect and then a sale. There's also going to be a 10-3-1 rule. When they are customer already, there's also still going to be a 10-3-1 rule. Some of them are just going to buy one time. Some, 3 of them are going to be on a repeat business, and one is just going to be a raving fan. Of course, there are ways to improve that. Upon a 10-3-1 rule, you could go for, let's say, your closing technique. You go for sales coaching. You improve your closing technique. Yes, you can shift that percentage to your favor. You can use digital marketing to close the gaps, and that would also modify the way your prospects are brought towards the sale. You could also look at your business segment, right? And see whether from the segment can you break it up into multiple niches, and then you change. When you have a niche, you don't need many customers. You just need buying customers. So you can have, of course, different ways of modifying this. But as a rule of thumb, when you do any part of this business, there's always going to be a 10-3-1 rule. So this is a way to guard your heart, basically. So you know that you will never get the whole pie. There's always going to be the part of pie that's going to be yours, and whatever else you do, know that they fall into different categories. And with that, of course, I want to add in that there are also prospecting laws in this whole scenario. I picked up this prospecting laws from this book here called, it's a very long title, Fanatical Prospecting, the Ultimate Guide to Opening Sales Conversations, Feeling the blah, blah, blah. There is a free trial of this book on this bit.ly link here. If you all can copy it, I can show you the link. I can copy the link into the WhatsApp chat later on. But in this book, this is chapter 5, there are basically 3 laws which they describe. The law of need is quite the opposite of the law of attraction. The law of need basically says that if you are desperate, you're so hungry and you're desperate, the chances of you closing a sale is even worse. Okay, because when you go into a sales, you call the sales conversation, the whole desperation comes out. So the whole idea is that you have to be in the mindset that when you're prospecting, don't get into the arena of trying to close the person, because the whole fear of getting the closure and closing the conversation, all that comes into your conversation. So the law of need is just something that you need to be aware of, is that you have to be prospecting even when you're full, even when you're hungry. 30-day rule became very real for me. My own personal story of this is that my wife is a teacher, and every time whenever it's school holiday, after the school holiday, I find that I seem to be hitting a sales slump every time, and when I read this book, it told me why basically. What happens is that the school holidays, the June holidays is 1 month long. The December one is November, December is like 6 weeks long, and with the holidays, you tend to do all the major things, the spring cleaning, holiday, replace something big in the house. So you tend to lose a lot of working days. Nothing wrong with that, but you tend to lose working days doing home stuff, personal stuff, rather than doing prospecting. And what I realized unconsciously, became very real, is that after her holidays, when she go back to work, the first month after that became a big grind for me to get going again. And that's where the 30-day rule comes in. When the time you meet a prospect to the time you close, very typically, by the time you set an appointment, you get to know the person. Today is day 1. By the time the person sits with you, sometimes it's 1 week later. He sits with you, he has questions, it's another week later. He's gonna ask more questions. Even when you do a closing, you have some fine tuning. It takes about 30 days from start to end, and that's a pretty fixed cycle. So if you haven't been meeting someone, let's say for me in the school holidays, start day 1 and I'm busy with things to do in the house together with my wife, and I miss that first day of the 30-day cycle with that prospect, everything gets pushed back 30 days. Okay, so there is always going to be this cycle. So as long as you, some things you cannot avoid, of course, if there's a medical condition or your kids, you need to fly them off somewhere. some things are unavoidable, but know that there is always going to be a 30-day cycle behind this whole prospecting. And if you miss out a day, you're probably going to miss out something on the next 30 days. So don't be surprised when a sales slump hits because of this 30-day cycle. Okay, the next law that the book talked about is the law of replacement. So to give an example, let's say you have 30 prospects in your pipeline and your closing rate is 10%. So if you got 30, that means you're going to meet 30 people, the closing rate is 10%. How many sales do you expect to close? 3? Okay, so when you close 3, that means you have to find a way to replace 30, right? So let's say when you go for when you start your cycle to meet this 30 prospects, on the first meeting with that the first meeting that you do, you are very fortunate the person buys. So how many left do you have? 29. So how many should you be replacing? Any shout outs? Okay, some of you say 1. By right, the statistics show that you should be actually replacing 10. Because your 1 has been closed, that means there's a high statistical chance that your next 9 won't. So if you don't fill up, when you have that means that every sale that you have managed to close, you should be also bringing in 10 new prospects. Because if you don't do that and you think that, oh, I still got 29, and you carry on meeting the 29 without filling up the pipeline again, you're going to hit another sales slump. So that's what the law of replacement is. Know your closing numbers, and then when you do make the close, replace with the whole chunk there based on your closing numbers. This book is a recommended read. This is only, I think, chapter 5 of 30 chapters is about sales closing or that. I'm still going through that, still digesting it. It's been helpful for me so far. Remember, this whole journey is about farming, it's not hunting. So the next portion that I want to dive into is about documenting. So I won't really talk about sales closing. I'm more interested in the mindset. Part of the mindset of marketing is how you document your conversations with your client. And of course, when you do your documenting, you gotta want to know why you're doing it. For me, my big why is to bring my client deeper into my lifetime value. Remember, I'm using the word client. That's also a very seeded process because I don't want just customers. I want a whole relationship. So I'll seed it the way I have, the way I want it, and I want to bring my client deeper into the lifetime value. Of course, you can talk about the next thing is how. A lot of financial agents are using Excel. That's perfectly fine. When I started off, I was using just Google Contacts. In your contact, you can have notes there, or you can branch it out into your Google Keep and write more notes about that. That's also fine. Or you can use a CRM like a HubSpot or Zoho. A CRM, the advantage is that these CRMs usually are a bit more attached to contact management. They are more hooked up into, they're more integratable into your other systems, into your ERP, your point of sale, into your email marketing, what have you. So I also recommend using them. Besides, you can also get into HubSpot or Zoho as a free account and still get very far with that. So what do you document? Okay, I'm not sure how many of you have lived through corporate life. When I first went to corporate life, there's this guy, Harvey Mackay, that wrote about Mackay 66. Basically, it says there are 66 things about your prospect that you should be recording. If you read them now, it looks as though you're stalking the person, but I won't recommend all 66. But it's good as a read because it gives you an idea of what a serious businessman is willing to collect, what kind of information is willing to collect about a prospective client to even win them away from the competitor. But this again, Remember, this is at the level of MNC where they really want to go in deep, and then they find out so many things about each member of the decision process for those type of big kind of sales. But for us here in the solopreneur SME side, we need to grow so intense. I'll break it down to other ways of doing it. Right? We can do a VATK. How many of you have heard of VATK? That's visual, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic. I see some of you are very obviously tactile. The exercise that's not mentioned about the VATK. I say if you all want to type it in, you can write it first and take a picture. And some of you actually did. So you're probably more inclined towards a tactile way of learning. If you have more like the K kinesthetic like me, you have to allow have action, cannot sit still and move around. Right? These are the things that you want to document about the prospect that you're sitting in front of you. Some of you have gone through a learning of the DISC models, the Myers-Briggs models. I won't knock that. I think that's very good. But if the whole point again of knowing this is also like Strength Finder. The whole point of knowing this, if you learn about how to read people and this, remember again, your purpose of doing this is to bring your client deeper into the lifetime value. So don't just learn this frameworks for the sake of, hey, it's nice to know, but find out how to use this to document more things about your client. I know like insurance agents like to use a lot of love language, the 5 love languages. I think that's also a wonderful way of knowing what your prospect reacts to, and then work accordingly to that. I have learned a system called Bank. Bank is a very interesting one. It's a very interesting. I'll talk about Bank in the next few slides. I kind of like using Bank. A few of us, I think, in our previous life, we learned about Bank. Bank is pretty simple. I have it here. Basically, also it's 4 things. It's not quite mappable to the DISC, but Bank basically just means blueprint, action, knowledge, nurturing, and knowledge. And the focus of Bank is that it focuses not on personality types, but about the prospect. We all have a natural nature, nature versus nurture, right? And the whole point of this is that sometimes we hide our nature. We have always gone through our nurtured, our learn mode, and that's the way we operate. So BANK doesn't really bother what methods you are, what your personality type is, but it helps you spot immediately what the person sitting across you or the room sitting in front of you, what their main profiles are like, so that you can talk in the language that they are at, so you quickly build rapport. This bank is very interesting also because it's not that well known out there, mainly because it's a victim of its own success lah. Basically, if you know what bank is, you can probably learn it in 90 minutes, and then you just put it as part of you. And there is actually a franchise training model behind bank, but because it is something that once you learn, you have it. There's no real continuity behind it. If you learn like DISC, it's so in depth. There's so much psychology behind it. You learn about Myers-Briggs. There's so much psychology, and in of it, sometimes you learn it, but you're not sure what to apply with it. But bank is very simple, very plain, very upfront. And I'll quickly run through the different BANKs. So in terms of blueprint, people who are on the blueprint value tend to look at things for stable. Remember, okay, I want to preface this. We tend to have a forefront value. That means you may be a B on your natural, but you also have an A and an N or K behind you. So there's no one falls squarely into one, but it's just that how you respond to conversations, how you respond to people, these will be things like that. And this how you respond also comes out in the way you write, the way you carry yourself, the way you behave, the way you move sometimes. Okay, so people that's of the higher value or blueprint tend to value things like stability, structure, systems, planning, processes, and let's sort of highlight, Shamala is quite a high B in this. When you see her notes in the previous last week's sharing, you see her slides are very BANK style, very blueprint style, title plus all the points, title plus all the points. This is how you typically spot a blueprint. I just want to jump back to our WhatsApp chat for the first exercise that we did. Just to get an idea, when you're talking about an aeroplane, who are the B's here? I'm just gonna jump through. So B's tend to look at, a lot of you are N's. See, B's tend to look at business. They tend to look at the things in there. So Sharon,
Edmund.
yeah, Edmund, very, very obvious.
Yeah.
Edmund is a bit more K. I'll explain why. Okay, he's talking about fueling. Arrival departure is a B kind of a trait. Yeah, private jet, pilot, these are quite B. Maintenance, these are quite B. Henrik, quite B. Okay, the next group, action. Okay, action is those that see something, they know enough, that they like it, they'll take the action, they'll jump to it. These are people that freedom, flexibility, look for opportunity, look for fun, look for image, they want competition. Again, you go back to the list, the very obvious A's are people like Jeremiah, rich, pompous, you see the words they use, movie stars, these are all the excitement words. Jeremiah is quite an A person. I think from the chapter, you also look at fellow members. I tend to people watch a bit now. You know who your A's are. Okay, very obvious. Okay, they'll tend to take action. They know enough. They take action. But what sometimes as an afterthought from the action, their B comes up. And then they realize they have to put it into a structure. Then they carry it on. One quick tip when you meet people, Singaporeans tend to be trained to be blueprint. That's our education system. Okay, so if you are doing a presentation, even if you see my presentation today, there is a B element, there's an A element. The action part is the first two exercise. Some of you like it, some of you go, what the hell? These will be the case. Okay, okay. So this is the different personality types coming in. The nurturing one will be those that seek the conversations, the relationship, growth, the teamwork, community, charity, and you can pick them up in the words also. Minty, very obvious nurturing side. You see the words there is a lot about pilot, the handsome, about the people. When you talk more, you always relate about the people. Go back to the people. This. When you talk to this person in front of you, you tend to talk more about the nurturing, the people side of it. So BAN are the more predominant values in our space lah. Okay, and how do you tell the difference? So let's say if you have a certain opportunity. Let's say we have a Jared not here. So okay, so I'll talk about investment. Okay, let's say you have a whole new investment opportunity. When you talk to a blueprint person, you must talk about the facts and figures. What's the research that go behind this investment? Who are the structures? Who are the different bodies that have approved this? These are the blueprint people that will listen out for this. The action people will be those that say, hey, you are the first mover, get first mover advantage. There's going to be a payout of something, X amount by the end of the year. Let's go, right? Join me here, and trust me, follow me. The action people will react well to this. Right, the nurturing people, you cannot do this first two ways because they'll go like, doesn't really talk to me. Nurturing people, you tend to be, if there's someone that's in front of you that's a nurturing, most likely is a referral. Quite unlikely it'll be a cold lead, and you'll be brought in by a friend, and a friend will be saying, and the conversation will say, hey, your friend already bought this, and your friend introduced his mother and his father and his uncle, and they also listened and they brought this. They seek approval through the approval or movement of other people. So that these are different things that you might want to look out for in your presentation, or even when you do a prospecting. Does it make sense? The BAN so far? The K will be very easy to spot. If you set through this presentation and you realize 10.3.1 and 10:3.1 are different. If this signboard here doesn't make sense to you, you're probably not a K. Okay, to me it triggers me. Okay. Okay. So the K are people that go more in depth into the knowledge. If you talked about me for investment, you talk about, who are the people that's credible. Yes, I will listen out for that, but I'll tend to want to know more about the mechanics behind this. How did the money come in? What happened to the money, and how did the money go out? I want to know the big picture. I want to know the whole research that's gone to making this a real thing. The thing about Ks is that usually you don't try to sell them. You just give them the facts and they will sell themselves. All right. Ks tend to be more analytical. Thankfully, there are not many Ks in the natural space. This is a smaller percentage. So when you do meet a K, sometimes they'll be asking you all the very tough, very, very tough and in-depth questions. Don't worry, bring another K into the room. All right. So this again, just go back to the answers. Who's very obvious K? I would say Edmund is a quite obvious K. Okay, notice that K doesn't have to be a K for everything. There could be a K, there could be a knowledge for certain sectors of information that they find very interesting, and they dive deep into that. So when you are doing that's why it's important to when you do a presentation is to niche the conversation as well. If it's a cooking class, you niche it to cooking, and there'll be a certain case there that, wow, when you talk about souffle, there'll be a whole art and science of the way they toss do the blend of the mixing, all that. You must do it like 362 times of turning. They'll be very exact in those sort of things. That would be K in that area. But then when you talk about the rest of the way they handle finances, they could be a A. They see a bright shiny object, they buy something. So the B and K would work again. You got to be sensitive to the niche that they operate in. I missed one example just now. When you talk to Shamala is when she talks to people, she tends to be a B, but I think as her nature, she tends to be more N, a nurturing side. That's why she's able to live as a life coach. She's able to connect as a life coach because the N is that main trait of hers. But because she's gone through the business side of it, her B side of it, that's why she knows how to ask you for money, bill you for the time, right? And it's not going to be shy about it. So that nature versus nurture has come out from that already. So these are things that you want to be aware of when you are having a conversation with someone, and you might want to document some of these things that you pick up. Again, these are things that you will learn. It's no hard and fast rule of that. Even when you do a presentation, when I do a presentation like this, you notice that I put in elements of B, A, and K in this whole presentation. And even it's okay to have a slide deck when you are talking to someone with a prospect in front of you. Just the whole idea is being sensitive of what their values are. And if their values are more towards the B, then you bring up more of the when you're part of your slide that talks about B, you sit there longer on that slide and talk more about it, and you build a connection of your sales of your product or service along that connection. If the person is more N, then you just might want to pull back from the whole presentation and just say, what is it about you? Tell me your life story, and then you just go into a conversation mode on there. Again, use the presentation deck as a way, but your presentation must prepare and be ready to meet these 4 types so that you be most effective in your presentation as when you do your prospecting, after you do your appointment. So one example that I want to give in closing, or one sample, I want you to meet my younger brother. His name is also Paul. Okay, and let's say if you are an insurance person, I like to use insurance people as a example, mainly because they form a large part of my client pool, but they also are very interesting because they have many different products in the insurance portfolio, and with that they can have many different lifetime values. One can be for the family, the life planning. One can be for pension planning. One can be for investment planning. One can be for travel insurance. So there are many different stacks for insurance, and I'd like to use that as an example. So let's say you meet a younger version of me and says, okay, this is Paul, and as an insurance person, I want to get Paul to have more coverage for himself and his family. Okay, so what else do I document? Of course, you have the usual fact finding. He's bought GI travel. He has a few policies on life. Investment. What else you document? He has a wife, 2 kids, about 20. He stays at HDB, a car. Oh, when's the last review, right? These are facts that you definitely would want to collect. You might want to know more about his VATK. So if he's a kinesthetic, don't make him sit too long in the presentation. He gets very edgy. If he sits too long, he'll lose interest. Get him involved in a conversation, get him to draw something. You can figure out something for him to draw or play with a pencil, give him something to do. So at least he's properly distracted or still engaged with you. If you are more into love language, Paul's love language is time. He's okay to set up time to meet, but don't abuse this, because he's also a BANK. He's quite a knowledge base. So just share facts. Be sure you do your research on things like mortality or coverage, so you can go deep into a conversation if you need to. The usual selling tactics will not work. If you want to do a hard close for K, probably don't do that. Give the K enough information, they'll close themselves. It's good to get Ks on your side, because when they endorse a product, people tend to know this guy has done his research. So it's sometimes worth the effort to close Ks, even though it's a little bit harder. Don't really spend too much time talking about other people also buy this. This really, to me, grates on me. For me, just because other people buy this doesn't mean that I have to. But this works for ends, the nurturing ones. All right. So know your target audience and use the right words. In the follow up, we might want Ks like to have. Don't leave a K lingering. If you didn't close the person, set up another appointment, whether it's 1 week in advance, or you know that this is not going to be a done deal, you set up another appointment for 6 months. Ks live by the calendar. They are very methodical about it. Bs as well, because Bs are a bit more on process. So Bs and Ks, you can talk about setting appointments to meet up again. And Bs are a bit more forgiving, but Ks, if you set appointment, try not to bounce. They tend to be a bit more when you bounce appointment. So these are things that you want to. This is how you might want to document for your appointments when you meet people. Does all this help you all? This has been a quick overview, a quick sharing on the marketing mindset. Again, pull on the creativity of the group to get your marketing ideas out. Have a structure to work with. I use the 5 stages. You have a process to bring you from stage to stage. Have the discipline to live these stages, and of course, have the courage to just take that first step forward to learning and doing something new. If there are any questions, I'm open to them. Otherwise, this is the end of my sharing. Ta-da! You can unmute yourself. I would love to hear you.